Time being 6 o'clock, I'm going to call the Board of Health meeting to order. All members are present with the exception of Clay Kelly. Would everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. First item on our agenda this evening are announcements from the Health Department. I'm going to turn it over to our Health Agent, Chris Schultz.
Pretty quiet from the Health Department right now. A couple things I wanted to touch on. So we have started deploying our ContraPest rat contraception stations. The rats do like it. I've had to refill several of them a few times. So if anybody in Abington is having issues with rats in their yard or property, please give us a call. We have more that we can deploy. And the only other thing I wanted to mention is, and you never get tired of saying this, COVID is on the rise. We're seeing a huge spike in cases. The current strain going around seems to have some flu-like symptoms and is putting people down for a day or two. So just ask people to be careful. If you're not feeling well, stay home. We still have free test kits available here at Town Hall, so feel free to stop by if you need some test kits.
The test kits that we had from a few years ago or a year and a half ago, so are those still good?
Some of them are, some of them aren't.
Okay.
The FDA had been just continuing to push out the expiration dates, and they've stopped doing that, probably because they're not free anymore, to be honest. So some of them have actually expired. So if they have a QR code on the box, scan that and check and see. The current ones that are out that are expire in November are actually, or October, are actually good for another month beyond that.
Okay.
Some of the first round ones are expired.
Any questions for Chris? Nope. All right, thank you. Moving on to our next item here is discussion on feedback from Town Council on the draft regulation restricting the sale of tobacco and vape products and the draft regulation prohibiting smoking in workplaces and public places. So we voted on to send this to Town Council in, I think, May, and we just got them back. There is a copy of a red line version that I have. I'm going to go through some of the changes. There is another copy up here if somebody wants to look at one. And you guys were also emailed out a copy if you want to pull it, if you want to look at it too. The reason I want to just quickly skim through these, and there's not a ton, some of them make a lot of sense, but there are a few things I know I looked at it and couldn't really understand why the changes were made. And I do want to approach Greg with a few questions with that, so if anybody's got questions, I'd like to maybe send out one email with all the things we might have so we can get some responses there. So I'm just going to start running through real quick the regulation restricting the sale of tobacco products. And just go through those changes. So there are a few changes in the statement of purpose, including the variety of flavors. There was another one that included 3 paragraphs. Greg noted that they're added as a buttress to the rational basis for limiting the number of establishments allowed to operate in the town. So things such as densely populated communities, tobacco retailers find it easier for youth to obtain tobacco products, about youth who live near schools and neighborhoods being able to have the highest density of tobacco outlets, et cetera. So those things are included in the purpose as well. For definitions, agent was added, which would be somebody from the health department that we appoint to enforce these in most cases. The Board of Health, which is just us. Some things were added in pursuant to MGL, just including those references there. Again, just things that should be there, a few word changes. We are reminded constantly because in the draft regulation, we didn't left in a lot of references to smoking bars. They are not allowed in Abington, so a lot of that could be omitted. I know we kind of just left it in and figured it's better to have it and ask for it to be removed than to not have it in and need it in the first place. Moving on to no tobacco sales for persons under 21. There was also included the line offer for sale, not just sale or provide. So that is also going to, is part of the regulation there. And it's included twice on both things. So no business can provide or offer to sale in those. There was a section removed under the tobacco product sales permit that says that a tobacco sales permit will not be renewed if the permit holder has sold a tobacco product to a person over 21 3 times within the previous permit year, and the time period to appeal has expired Violator may request a hearing in accordance with subsection 6 of the violation section. Not really sure why that was removed. If I had to speculate, it may have been removed because subsection 6 was removed later on. So I want to just take a double check on that. But the rationale, again, it was not really provided, so I think that's a question I want to ask as well. Another thing I found weird, so one of the things we voted at length, deliberated at length and voted to move forward with was the maximum number of tobacco product sales permits. We talked about having 29, and as those were turned in, reducing the number of licenses available. Yes, exactly. And those, that complete section was removed with no rationale as to why. So that's something I think we need to get figured out. There is, for whatever reason, this section added that says any tobacco sales permit that are surrendered, not renewed, or revoked will be returned to the Board of Health and made available to new applicants on a first come, first served basis, which is the complete opposite of what we decided to do.
Yeah, we're trying
So-
to minimize.
Really trying to understand why that was the case. There was no comments here at all. So I just
Was he
kinda
comparing it to like other municipalities maybe? And is,
So what I would think is that our thing would be crossed out on here, and then he would
Right.
added in the new section. It's not even crossed out; it's just completely omitted. I'm gonna go back and check and make sure that the copy that I sent him included that.
Yeah,
but
okay.
I think I did, and I think it is.
Okay.
I'm gonna double check that for sure. But definitely something I think we need to get cleared up with him. That doesn't really make sense. He also added a section for training for store personnel. There's a big, long thing just saying that we will provide a training course. We not will provide, but we will certify a training course that those individuals can take. Which kind of explains that in a little more detail. Because cigar sales regulated also included offer for sale, excuse me, those that don't meet that pricing threshold as we discussed. Same with the sale of flavored tobacco products. Offer for sale is also part of that as well.
okay.
There is incorporation of state laws and state regulations. The word state was removed, so they're laws and regulations. And I think that was so that all federal and state and local laws would all apply. So not just us including in the state. So just that wording was changed there. The enforcement section was completely changed from our original violation section. So there is about 2.5 pages worth of changes there. I think basically it just lays out the exact thing we said much neater. So if everybody wants to take a look before we move forward with those things, I think that would be good. But it doesn't look like anything was necessarily changed. It just made it not look so wordy and verbose. So that seemed to be really good there. And then our enforcement section, which was there, was removed and included in violations as well. So those were all the changes that were in there. So I think it's just those two things I did find to be bizarre. It was that we didn't have any explanation for. I don't know if anybody's got any thoughts wanted to add.
I definitely want to ask about the number of sellers, like you said.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that it has to be a mistake.
Because that gives us an option to do that.
Right, yeah, and I'm pretty sure I've seen KP Law approve other municipalities to do the same thing. So I just find it weird for that not to be the case here. So if there's some rationale we're missing, I'd love to hear it, and I'm sure the rest of the board would as well.
Yeah.
But, okay, so those two questions. And between now and like next week, if anybody wants to read through and send those as well, just let me know.
Sure.
We'll get, I want to
Does
get something to
someone
them.
mind sending me a copy of that? Because I don't know.
It was in the,
Did I-
when the agenda went out.
Oh, okay.
If not, I'll have to
Okay.
send you another copy.
I was like, I feel like I saw it, but I might not. Okay.
Yeah, not a problem.
So I know this was before I joined.
It's
so I just
definitely better
wanna
to look
make
at it
sure.
on a desktop because you can see the changes
Yeah, so I
better.
was gonna. I think that's probably what I was planning to do. Just
Yeah, because I'm noticing yours has a bunch
Yeah,
of
that was
red, but the
before.
one that I have doesn't have any red markings on it.
Yeah, when you open it in the Word, like, browser
It'll
thing,
show it, yeah.
it'll show
Okay.
those red lines, which is good.
I think it was probably in March or April that we actually did that. It was quite a while.
Yeah, well, that section we did so early on, so it's irritating, and I'm kind of irritated we have to even send questions back, because I don't know how long it's going to take to get them. We've been working on this all year, actually since September, so it'd be nice to move forward with this. So this is just the smoking in workplaces and public places regulation. This is only 6 pages, so it'll be a much quicker to go through. So first thing is the definition for adult-only retail store was copied from the other regulation to maintain consistency. I guess there were different definitions, so they are just going to remain the same there. No changes here. We again reminded that smoking bars are prohibited in the town of Abington, because again, we left them in, so that was just omitted. Basically, it says in some of these definitions that if you maintain a valid permit for the retail sale of tobacco as required by the town of Abington, it doesn't apply in the smoking bar definition because you wouldn't get a permit to operate a smoking bar.
Right.
So, also the definitions of marijuana and marijuana product were added because I believe they are referenced later on in terms of where smoking is allowed, and we'll talk about that in a second, but those are just saying as defined in the general laws or any material that is used to inhale marijuana, et cetera, is written out. So section 4, and like I actually just mentioned, so smoking and the use of tobacco and marijuana products are prohibited. The first section was completely omitted. No rationale as to why, which is to say it shall be the responsibility of the employer to provide a smoke-free environment for all employees working in an enclosed workspace, as well as those workplace listed in subsection C below. Not really sure why. Subsection C is still intact. So I just want to understand, I mean, is the responsibility not of the employer? I'm not really clear on that. So that'd be a question I have. It is included that the use of tobacco and marijuana products is hereby prohibited in all workplaces. So that's basically the major change of this whole section. All of these pretty much just say and marijuana. There is one thing on number 11 on subsection C in section 4, which we have outdoor restaurant and bar locations. This may have been left on from the draft, but it says policy variations available. What are the policy variations? It's very not clearly defined. Might be something we just omit completely, because that may have been a note to us and we left it in. So probably something we just want to get clarity. Is that what he was referencing us to do? So the use, it says also here, so this is subsection D, the use of, we had electronic nicotine delivery systems has been replaced with tobacco and marijuana products. I was under the impression that electronic nicotine delivery systems in this one was to reference specifically vaping products, because we were pretty much adding that as an addendum. Maybe I need to go back and read tobacco, and Chris, maybe you saw it when you were looking. Is that how we're just defining tobacco now? Tobacco products?
Does the,
Probably?
yeah, because
Yeah.
I think the
yeah.
state considers vape not allowed indoors. It's the
Right.
same, yeah, so if we're
Yeah.
going by state regulations, then,
But electronic nicotine delivery system is still a definition we have in here. So I get it. I think it's to include marijuana is probably why it's worded the way that it is. But so again, there's no rationale as to why it was changed.
right.
Seems weird. Maybe this is why section A was done. The last one, section F here, is saying it shall be the responsibility of the owner, manager, employer, and or any person in lawful control of the premises to ensure that all persons on the premises comply with this regulation. Maybe it's just a fancier way.
I think that's a fancier way of saying it instead of
So,
employee,
and he
yeah.
moved it to the bottom, which is probably why I didn't see it in the first place. Posting notice of smoking prohibition is a section that he added here. So it's basically just saying what we just said in the end of the other one. An owner, employer, or person having control of any premise in Abington where smoking and the use of tobacco products is prohibited shall conspicuously display upon the premises no smoking signs or the international no smoking symbol. So in addition to what we said before. In our enforcement section, an employer is also added to this first section for anybody that violates the section, so not just owner, manager, or other person in control of the building. Or other place which smoking is prohibited was also added as well, because we kind of limited ourselves by not saying that, so that was added in. Provision was added, say whoever violates any provision of this regulation may be penalized by indictment or complaint brought in the district court, which was not included prior to that. I believe that is because the fines are criminal fines. Kind of.
They're on here at 100, 200, 300, so they're not criminal. Over 300 makes it.
Aha, that is correct. Okay, well, that would make more sense.
That's a good factoid to know.
There's also a section added that says a person aggrieved by any permit suspension, revocation, or refusal to renew may request a hearing before the Board of Health. Apparently we didn't have that process in here before, so it's been added in, which is good.
Okay.
And one more change, and that was that any person may register a complaint to, oh, that's what we just said. This is not even the word Abington. All right, there's actually a major typo that he has in here, so I want to ask him about that. It doesn't even say the word Abington.
Yeah, please don't allow the Tisbury Police Department to
Yeah.
enforce our rules.
Yeah, the Tisbury Harbor Master Department probably won't help us either. So we'll get that taken care of. All right, so those were those. Those kind of made more sense, I think, with those changes, but still some things I think we want.
Sounds like we just have some follow-up still, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely, if he can go through or has a better copy that does explain more of these in detail, I would appreciate it. But these one-word responses, I don't think do as much justice to fix any of these things. And, you know, knowing that some things are missing, I don't want to blanket approve anything. I think we're all in the same boat there. Anybody have any other comments or questions or things? So anybody take a look over the next week or so. If you see anything else that clears out, just shoot it over to me. We'll get an answer from him and plan to discuss this at our next meeting. And maybe by the end of September, we can discuss opening this up to get a public hearing and move forward. All right. Moving on to our next agenda item, vote to approve the minutes of July 17th, 2023. Everyone should have a copy of those. Do I have discussion or action?
Make a motion to approve July 17th minutes as written.
Motion to
Second.
approve is written, seconded by, is it Katie?
Mhm.
All right. Any further discussion?
We also need to, according to the minutes we just approved, need to approve the 6:26 minutes because we don't have enough people that attended that
I
meeting.
didn't put it on the agenda, and even if I did, we don't have a quorum still to do that because one of the members that was there wasn't there. So we wouldn't be able to do it
It's the
anyway.
exact same, okay. Just want to make sure.
So it's like I planned that. All right, and any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And passes. Great. All right, public comment. There's no public comment. We'll pass that. Correspondence. Does the health department or the board have any correspondence to share?
Nope.
Cool. Okay. With that, it is 6:18. I would now entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Kevin. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Katie. Any, no, it's,
No.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.